Mario Brothers. Whee!
I loved this game as a kid. Mario platformers were among the first games I played when I was young. My dad had Mario 3 and Mario 64 emulated on his computer, and I very vaguely remember playing them with some old crappy controller. This one, actually. Turns out we still have it. On my Nintendo DS Lite, I sunk hours into New Super Mario Bros., as well as the Mario Advance titles, which remade classic Mario titles on the Game Boy Advance. On the Wii Virtual Console, I had Mario 1, 2, 3, World, and the Lost Levels, which I played religiously. That's not to mention the 3D games either. 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy were all staples of my gaming diet in elementary school. Hell, I had Mario 64 on the N64 proper, the Wii Virtual Console, and Super Mario 64 DS. Needless to say, I loved Mario.
Here we go.
Consequently, the months leading up to the release of New Super Mario Bros. Wii was incredibly exciting for me. It was the first time I looked forward to a game's release, and what a game it was shaping up to be. It was the first Mario platformer with 4-player co-op, and the first 2D Mario platformer on home consoles in 19 years. At first sight, I was immediately obsessed with this game, and I learned as much about it as possible, which mostly entailed watching Nintendo Week episodes on the Nintendo channel. Remember Nintendo Week? Coming home from school on Fridays was particularly exciting for me because that's when the new episodes came out. New Super Mario Bros. Wii was the best present I received for Christmas that year. It blew my expectations out of the water and was basically the only thing I did that Christmas break. I thought it looked gorgeous. Maybe not as good as Super Mario Galaxy, but that 480p resolution did numbers for my 9-year-old eyes. Of course, this was when I thought the weirdly realistic outfits in Brawl were jaw-dropping, but oh, the wonders of childhood. The level design was enjoyable and varied, each world having one distinct theme helped me better understand them. The star coins provided a reason to scour each level, and the co-op meant that I could play with my dad, who also enjoyed Mario games. It was the complete package for me, and I must have played it 4 or 5 times. My old Wii had 2 100% complete files, but I know I played it more than that. And one of those was my dad's, which I know I wouldn't have deleted. The power-ups Mario and Co. found along their adventure were fun to use. Having both the fire and ice flowers made even standard levels interesting, as you never knew what power-up the game was going to give you. The propeller mushroom aided me in the game's more challenging levels, and the penguin suit and mini mushroom were just silly. Running on water and sliding on ice, dude literally dresses like a penguin. And don't get me started on Toad Penguin. What a jerk. There are some levels I would just play over and over and over again. The second half of 3-1 where you get to slide down the ice as a penguin, the floating water bubbles in 7-2, riding the skeleton roller coaster in 8-7, even the intricate world maps and dynamic enemy levels completely blew my mind. Having Toad randomly appear in past levels and being rewarded 3 1-ups for saving him gave this game an obscene amount of replayability to me. The Toad House minigames you play were nice distractions, and the hit movies you could watch at Princess Peach's castle blew my mind. I could not believe the skills on display for some of these. I remember the one for level 3-5 specifically left me speechless. Suffice it to say, I was in love with this game. Looking at my childhood save file makes that evident. I had so many of every single item, showing my devotion to doing all the dumb little distractions and how I would play levels over and over again. I even had the Prima guidebook for this game, as this was before I discovered how easy it was to look up walkthroughs online. As you can tell from the spine, I used this book a lot, and it was the only reason I was able to 100% this game as a child. Looking back at it, the maps are very bare bones, not showing where enemies are or how hazards operate. Yes, you can see that stuff in these nifty screenshots, but the maps still look barren and empty. The only merit this book has is showing where all the star coins and secret exits are. Like, it incorrectly states that Mini Mario can't pick up items. Yeah, I'll stick with the Super Mario wiki, thank you very much. As a kid, this was my favorite game. Well, at least until Super Mario Galaxy 2 came out 6 months later. And then I never played it again. Games like Mario 3, World, 64, and Galaxy saw me replay them every couple years. But New Super Mario Bros. Wii was a one-and-done type deal. Something about the game caught my attention, but only until the next Mario game came out. For as much as I adored it at the time, it was totally unremarkable in the long run. Looking back at this game, it becomes quite evident why I never replayed it once other, better Mario games came out. In nearly every aspect, this game is blah. Blah. Blah, blah. The most important part of any platformer is level design. After all, the heart of a platformer lies in the levels you platform in, and if they suck, it's hard for the rest of the game to flourish. Well, the other important bit is how well the characters control, but it's a Mario game and so the movement is as good as you would expect. Accelerating, running, jumping, wall kicking, and ground pounding are all responsive and feel good to use. That being said, the levels in New Super Mario Bros. Wii are very 50-50. On the one hand, you have levels that successfully explore unique mechanics in interesting ways, but for every one of those, you have another boss bog standard underground or sky level. Even the interesting mechanics are a little underwhelming because they're typically only used once. 7.5 has foos and a bunch of clouds. While clouds exist in other levels, it's never used as a hazard in the same way, and foos are only found here. 7.2 has these floating water bubbles, again only found in this level. 2.4 has wind that blows you every few seconds. 4 Fortress has these blocks that can crush you and hide secrets. 5.2 has big wigglers if you will. 5.4 has this cool raft that won't move if 5 enemies are on it. 5.5 has flying manta rays. 8.7 has this skeleton coaster. 1.3 has hammer bros. Yeah, hammer bros only appear in one level. Even these stupid walking piranha plants appear more. While overusing mechanics is certain to spoil the intrigue that they first created, reusing them allows the developers to create more challenging scenarios for them. When introducing a mechanic, a good portion of the level needs to be devoted to first explaining it, with the end of the level testing players to see if they understand how it works. However, when seen again, the level just needs to have a quick little refresher before jumping into more abstract or challenging uses of it. One of the only times we see a mechanic reused is with these little ledges. First introduced in 4.2, they're seen again in 6.1 and 6.5, used in more challenging ways. I wish we saw instances like these more often. As it stands, a lot of the mechanics are tossed to the side before they reach their full potential. The most unfortunate thing is that most of these levels are just so uninspired. It can be seen by the world themes, which include your standard grass, sand, water, ice, fire, sky, and mountain affairs. The only marginally interesting world is the jungle one. Very few levels subvert their world's theme as well. Some flat out ignore it, like the obligatory sky and underwater levels, but for the most part, every level in the ice world is icy, every level in the sand world is sandy, so on and so forth. Well, cow food, obviously that's the case, I hear you say, rather annoyingly. That's how world themes work, you jerk. Yes, that's true. Also, bars. However, we've already seen all this. The original New Super Mario Bros. Released 3 years prior literally had the exact same world themes. And we've seen sand, ice, water, sky, and grass worlds since Mario 3. Speaking of which, that game had more interesting world themes too. Giant Land, Pipe Land, and Dark Land beat out rocking jungle worlds any day. Thematically, everything in New Super Mario Bros. Wii is bland and basic. It runs through the checklist of everything you'd expect to see in a platformer. The most interesting thing the game does with its worlds is this little red switch in World 3. As you play through 3-4, you'll see many outlines to red blocks, culminating in this suspicious pipe not being accessible on account of the outlines. You obviously can't go through this pipe, so you complete the level, but wind up taking the secret exit and go to 3-5. That level has even more outlined blocks, and halfway through you find another pipe, again inaccessible because of them. After finishing the level, you're taken to this red switch. You press it and are told the outlines to those blocks you've seen have been filled in, which allows you to find the regular exit in 3-4 and the secret exit in 3-5. Clearly inspired by these switch palaces in Super Mario World, it's baffling why this is just here all of a sudden. There are only 2 levels it affects, and makes me wonder why there weren't more switch palace type scenarios. Like, the switch doesn't even fit in with the ice theme of the rest of the world. There's also this bit in World 7 where by completing the secret level you get to start 7 Castle right by the boss. Once more referencing Mario World, specifically the backdoor to Bowser's Castle that lets you skip half the level. Regardless, the 8 worlds are disjointed, being selected by this totally underwhelming menu. The only worlds that kinda fit together are 6 and 7, as World 6 ends on a cloud. Among the forgettable levels, there are the annoying Mario traditions that have to be in every game for whatever reason. The most obvious is the swimming levels. I know I'm not breaking new ground by saying the underwater levels in Mario games suck, but it still needs to be said. Your controls change, you move slow, and you're just generally vulnerable during them. Fortunately, there's only 4 proper swimming levels: 1-4, 4-1, 4-4, and 8-4. But they suck so bad, and I don't know anyone who legitimately enjoys these levels. Of course, the penguin suit makes you swim better, but still. What's fascinating to me is that the developers themselves seem to know that swimming in this game sucks. 4-2, 4-3, 5-1, 6-5, and 9-2, while not being designated swimming levels, all have water in them. However, this water exists as an obstacle to be avoided, something you have to deal with as punishment for messing up other platforming. It's a slight slap on the wrist, with the implication being that swimming sucks so bad you want to avoid it at all costs. And if that implication is correct, why have swimming in the first place? Because it's tradition? Dumb, stupid tradition. Then you have your auto-scrollers. A speedrunner's worst nightmare, but even frustrating on casual playthroughs. Forcibly replaying a level at a snail's pace because you keep dying is just not fun. It also doesn't make sense. Like, why do we have to keep moving? What is killing me here? The conventional auto-scrollers in this game are 2 Castle, 5-5, 6 Airship, 7-6, 9-4, and 9-8. By conventional, I mean that there's an unseen entity that is forcibly panning the camera, and you die if you fall behind. Then there are soft auto-scrollers, where some moving platform drags you along, but the camera isn't locked to a specific path. These are 2-6, 3-5, 5-4, 6-6, and 8-7. While less annoying because you have the illusion of free will, they're still pretty rancid if you keep dying, and especially especially if you have to replay it, like, say, to get the secret exit in 2.6. But then there are 8.1 and 8.6, two of the best levels in the game. These, while not an auto-scroller in the traditional sense, implement the concept of an auto-scroller much better than the actual auto-scrollers in the game. The idea of an auto-scroller is simple. You increase the level's difficulty by forcing players to complete it in a certain amount of time. Instead of doing a million calculations on every jump, you need to keep pace with the level. Where this fails is when the auto-scroller has a speed cap, meaning while you have to maintain X speed, you cannot exceed Y speed. This creates the annoying conundrum of waiting for the level. While a speed cap can make a level more challenging, the frustration it generates is typically larger than the enjoyment from completing the challenge of it. What 8.1 and 8.6 do instead is remove the arbitrary speed cap. In both of these levels, you're chased by a visible threat, black smoke and rising magma, respectively. These threats demand you keep pace, lest you be killed by them. What they don't do is prevent you from zooming ahead if you're good enough, and just like that, auto-scrollers are solved. Kill me if I'm slow, but don't stop me from going fast. Consequently, these levels rock. The other stinker of a level gimmick is dark levels. What if you just couldn't see what was going on? Boy, that sounds fun and challenging and not aggravating. There's only 3 levels that use it, but it's annoying regardless. 2.3 is a pitch dark cave periodically lit by stray fireballs and fire snakes. 6.6 is a tedious underground crawl as you man a raft with a searchlight, implementing the already obnoxious soft auto-scrolling mechanic. And then 8.4 is the worst level in the game, an underwater level where you can't see a thing. This is practically a sensory deprivation tank, blindly swimming about. Adding the janky swimming controls to an environment where visibility is impaired isn't fun. Yeah, the dark levels provide plenty of light, but that doesn't alleviate the frustration they present in the first place. And that's the main thing with swimming, auto-scrolling, and dark levels. They're just not enjoyable. They introduce an artificial challenge, weird controls, forced progression, and limited visibility, which guides the difficulty in these levels. They're difficult not through any interesting design, but through a cheap trick. Obviously, not being able to see or having to move at a constant pace makes a level harder, in the same way that holding your controller upside down or inverting the controls would. The utter failure of these mechanics can be seen by how they're the most miserable levels in the game. 2 Castle is an auto-scroller maze where if you don't go the right way, you have to slowly redo an entire section. Oh, and to get the first star coin, you have to purposefully go the wrong way and spend even longer in this castle hell. 4.4 is just so bland. There's pipes and bloopers. That's it. That's the concept of the level. What if Blooper had baby? I do not care. And, well, I've already spoken my piece on 8.4. If you like these levels, whatever. But I dare you to tell me that they are on par with the levels that don't use these 3 mechanics, let alone good. And, because this game came out on the Nintendo Wii, it has motion controls. Yay, I love those! They're not gimmicky and I love shaking the Wii remote to perform the most basic actions, especially when they can't be turned off. Thank you, Nintendo! Okay, they're not that bad. Some levels have platforms that require motion controls, and for the most part they're cute and unobtrusive. The roughest part for me was the rising platform in 7 Fortress that you direct by tilting the controller right or left. That really threw my hand-eye coordination for a loop. Then there are screws in the airships that you stand on and shake the Wii remote to make something happen, and these screw mushrooms in 1.5 that do the same thing. You also shake the Wii remote to do a spin jump, like in Mario World, except it doesn't allow you to jump on spiky guys. If you spin jump with a fire flower, ice flower, or penguin suit, you shoot out a fire or ice ball on both sides. There was literally never a scenario where doing this was helpful. But if you shake the Wii remote while you're jumping, you'll do a little spin and briefly stall in the air. This is a really neat mechanic and lets you correct your jumps rather handily. Lastly, shaking the controller triggers the propeller mushroom's propeller and lets you dismount Yoshi. Oh yeah, Yoshi's in this game. He's even on the box art. Wow, that must mean you can find him everywhere, like you can in Mario World, right? No. Yoshi's only in a handful of levels. Well, no biggie. I mean, you couldn't just get a Yoshi in every level in Mario World. The Yoshi levels are kinda lame though. The first 3 are just long, flat levels that don't really do anything interesting. Yeah, the very first introduces Yoshi, but the next 2 both have Lakitus as their main mechanic, and they're just so flat and boring to traverse. 6.4 is the best Yoshi level. The Monty Mole infested hills and scale-like platforms are all very reminiscent of Mario World. Also, the verticality of the level really works well with Yoshi's flutter jump. There's nothing super remarkable here, but it's just a fun level. And then 7.6 feels kinda shoehorned with its use of Yoshi. And then, well, that's it. Yoshi's only in 5 levels. But whatever, you can just go back to 1.3 whenever you want a Yoshi, I guess. Wait, Yoshi, why aren't you coming with me? Why are you waving goodbye? A boo? Yeah, for whatever reason, you can only use Yoshi in the 5 levels you get him in. To call this a letdown would be an understatement. Yoshi is fun to use, and I like it when there are fun things in my video game. Also, he's on the cover. You can't just put him on the cover and then have him be in less than 10% of the levels. That's not right. What is the reason you can't bring him everywhere? The first and only thought is that Yoshi's flutter jump would break some of the levels, or otherwise trivialize a majority of the game's platforming, and that would make some sense, except when you consider one of the game's new power-ups does just that. The propeller mushroom, while enjoyable to use, completely obliterates so many challenges that New Super Mario Bros. Wii presents. Tight platforming giving you hell? Fly over it. Can't collect a star coin that's just out of reach? Fly to it. Is the final boss taking too long? Fly over him. It's truly incredible how much of this game can be circumvented through the propeller mushroom. Whenever I was stumped, my first instinct was to grab one of them and just fly over my problems. It cannot be overstated how powerful this is. Of course, the game's #1 selling point also breaks its levels. Multiplayer makes everything fundamentally easier than single player. Being able to bounce on your teammates' heads allows you to circumvent challenges in the same way that the propeller mushroom does. And respawning in a bubble whenever you die allows you to just sacrifice yourself to get a star coin that's out of reach, as well as simply giving you more opportunities to beat a level before having to restart it. Oh, also you can just bubble whenever you want, which will save your skin so much. There are so many benefits to multiplayer that going back to single player is hard. Multiplayer also explains why so many levels feel large and expansive, but mainly empty. This game is meant to be played with 4 people, and having all this space ensures co-op will never feel cramped. Unfortunately, this results in single player feeling way too vast. Regardless, multiplayer makes this game 10 times more fun. At the risk of outing myself, killing your friends and playing as an absolute psychopath is a joy, and I'm so glad you're able to not only ground pound but straight up throw other players. Perfect balance of competition and cooperation. There are also 2 multiplayer side modes for you and your buds to play: Free-for-all and Coin Battle. These suck. Free-for-all lets you play any level you want. There's no objective stated though. You just kinda play through the level. Then at the end you're shown each player's stats and you get booted back to the level select screen. I suppose whoever has the highest score is the winner, but then if everyone dies it says that everyone lost. And when you complete a level its border changes. I don't really get this one, I'll be honest. Coin Battle is a little more coherent. Play through any level and whoever obtains the most coins wins. Here you're actually shown who got first place, and there are even 5 levels exclusive to Coin Battle. I guess it's nice there are side modes here, but the main game is so much more fun I can't see why you'd bother with these. Like, who's booting up this game to play Coin Battle? Star coins, the game's collectible, provide incentive for exploring every nook and cranny and conquering various challenges. There are 3 in every level and reward difficult platforming, or just a strong grasp on a level's mechanics. Well, they occasionally do that anyway. A lot of the time they're just kinda right there, and sometimes there will be star coins that require you to carry a barrel, freeze an enemy, or throw a POW block in a certain spot, but those can almost always be cheesed, either through the propeller mushroom or multiplayer, as can the ones that require difficult platforming. You can jump and bubble or jump and die. It's obtained all the same. Naturally, I found that the most interesting star coins were the ones that couldn't be cheesed. This one, a 9-3, requires you to run along a path of blocks formed by a P-switch. This one, also a 9-3, has you navigate a maze before a P-switch runs out. This one in 5-4 needs a bob-omb to reach. And this one in 1-4 makes you freeze an urchin to block a pipe's jet stream. There are some star coins that have really cool methods to obtain, but for every one of those, there's 10. Oh yeah, it's right there. Now, there are only 3 star coins per level and nothing else to collect in them. But at the same time, there are a lot of secrets in every level. So what are they all filled with? Coins and 1-ups. Sometimes there'll be a roulette block that gives you a power-up, and sometimes there'll be a red coin ring, which also gives you a power-up. As I played through these levels, I was always disappointed when the secret I found only rewarded me with coins and 1-ups. This game is not particularly challenging, and 1-ups are pretty much the only reward you get, so it doesn't take long until you have a stockpile of lives. I would find this really out-of-the-way secret and only get like 20 coins. Lives have always been one of the more stubborn relics of gaming history, feeling more and more antiquated the further we stray from the quarter-munching Namco and Midway machines of the 80s. They had always been in Mario platformers, and seeing how little New Super Mario Bros. Wii innovates, it's no surprise they're still here. Yet the reluctance to remove this archaic mechanic is entirely at odds with the more approachable design this game attempts. After dying 8 times in a level, you have the option to use the Super Guide, which essentially completes the level for you. At the same time, if you lose all your lives, you get a game over and go back to your last save, which happens every time you beat a boss. So the question becomes, why can you use the Super Guide on the final boss, yet still be punished for losing all your lives? That doesn't make sense. Those 2 mechanics don't mesh. The player who needs Super Guide the most won't be able to fully use it because they'll probably get a game over before they can die 8 times. In multiplayer, you can't use Super Guide, and when one player loses all their lives, they get a slap on the wrist before they're given 5 more. The only way you get a game over in multiplayer is by having every player get a game over at once. That's so unlikely to happen though, because one player needs to be at exactly 1 life when the other players lose all theirs. If that player has more than 1 life and dies, then the players who have lost all their lives are given and 5 more. Lives are entirely pointless in this game and only end up hurting the overall experience through these, admittedly unlikely, scenarios I just mentioned. Another archaic mechanic still present here is the timer. Beat a level in X seconds or you die. But every level gives you 500 or 600 seconds, so it's so unlikely you'll ever run out of time. It's an entirely pointless mechanic and I don't know why it stuck around this long. Also, points are still here and don't do anything. Swag. Anyway, because every secret that doesn't give you a star coin gives you 1-ups or coins, which in turn just feed into 1-ups, you'll be inundated with lives, potentially hitting the limit of 99, which makes acquiring any more coins or 1-ups entirely useless. Had there been a secondary collectible, like the puzzle pieces that are present in Donkey Kong Country Returns, that maybe feed to concept art or some other reward that would only appeal to the type of people to seek out the collectible in the first place, then finding all these neat nooks and crannies wouldn't feel so underwhelming. There's also the secret exits that you kind of collect. These typically require you to go out of your way, climbing on top of the level, entering some hard to reach pipe, or just jumping aimlessly until you find this arbitrary hidden block. The rewards for finding these hidden blocks are underwhelming, to say the least. Of the 14 secret exits, 6 of them are devoted to cannons, which take you to a later world. The secret exits in 2, 4, and 6, 5 take you straight to their world's castle, effectively skipping 1 level. Then there's this secret exit in 7 Ghost House that also just skips 1 level, and the secret exit in 3, 4 that's actually required because of the whole red switch dealio. There are only 4 secret exits that actually reward the player with something. The ones in 3, 5, and 4 Ghost House give access to a yellow Toad House, and the ones in 7 Fortress and 8, 2 give access to a secret level. These secrets are fascinating to me because the reward needs to correspond not only with how difficult the secret is to find, but with who is actually going to find it. The majority of these secrets reward the player with being able to skip levels, but the type of player who would want to skip levels is not the type of player who would find these secrets. For the casual player who just wants to beat the game and doesn't care about playing every level, junctions like these offer them a choice of what they want to play. If one is proving too difficult, they can play the other one. If the casual player were to find one of the secret exits that lets them skip levels, they would likely take it, but the casual player likely won't find them. For the hardcore player, hardcore being in heavy quotations as this is a Mario game, who plans on beating the game 100%, the secret isn't useful to them because they're just gonna go back and play every level anyway. What do they care if they can skip to World 5 if they want to play every other level regardless? That's why the 4 secret exits which provide a tangible reward are far superior to the other 10. Specifically, having the reward be an extra level to play is perfect, because the type of player who will find that secret is the type of player who wants more levels. For me, nearly all of the secret exits were a waste because I wasn't speedrunning the game. Yes, finding them was mostly fun, but I want to be rewarded with something like the Star World and Special Zone and Switch Palaces, not just a means to skip half the game. The Toad Houses and enemy levels fill up the rest of the world maps. Yellow Toad Houses give you a star, no strings attached. Green Toad Houses have you collect 1-ups by launching out of cannons, and red Toad Houses have you play this matching game. Except it's more luck than memory, as you just play until you hit 2 Bowser or Bowser Jr. panels. The minigames are fun enough, although I wish there were a couple more. They get a little stale after a while. Alright, incoming Psycho Rant. At Peach's birthday party at the start of the game, there are giant present boxes full of penguin suits and propeller mushrooms. The only explanation I have for this is that Princess Peach, presumably being Commander-in-Chief of the Mushroom Kingdom, must have the final say over the implementation of any and all weapons being developed by their defense contractors. For her birthday, Lockheed Mushton or whomever is clearly showing Peach their next generation Goomba-stomping, Koopa-crushing power-ups. Penguin suits and propeller mushrooms must be manufactured, because how can these be found in nature? Okay, so Peach was going to give the go-ahead to their newly designed penguin suits and propeller mushrooms, but she got kidnapped before she could, and so the acting General Toad, I don't know, Dwight D. Eisentoad, made an emergency order to deploy all the penguin suits and propeller mushrooms to the field for the Mario Bros. To use. The point I'm making is that all the Toad Houses that make you play for power-ups and 1-ups are likely just run by defense contractors trying to make a quick buck off the Mario Bros. As they rescue Princess Peach. Because, while they do want the princess to be rescued at the end of the day, there's an awful lot of coins to be made along the way. So yes, the Mushroom Kingdom likely has a military-industrial complex, and, seeing how often Peach gets kidnapped, is probably stuck in a permanent war economy. Psycho bit over. The enemy levels have you collect 8 Toad Balloons while avoiding or killing enemies that correspond to the world you're in. The reward for each of these is 3 mushrooms, and they're marginally more interesting than the Bros levels from Mario 3. Typically, after you beat a fortress level, a Toad gets kidnapped and is stuffed in a question block in a level you've already beaten. If you go to that level, you can hit the block to free him, then carry him all the way through the level to the flagpole. He can only take damage twice, and if he falls in a pit, poison, or lava, he's done for. If, miraculously, you make it to the end of the level with Toad intact, all he gives you is 3 1-ups. It's honestly such a minuscule reward for the arduous task that you're better off just leaving Toad to rot. Remember the Koopalings? Yeah, that name's been tainted over the past decade through overexposure, but in 2009 it was really cool to see them again. And Bowser Jr. is here. All 8 hate Koopa kids. Well, actually, the Koopalings aren't actually Bowser's kids. They're just his minions, and Bowser Jr. is Bowser's only child, even though they used to be his kids in Mario 3. But then in the Japanese version, Mario World, it's not mentioned how they're related to Bowser, except in the English version, they're referred to as his kids. God, I could not care less about Bowser's family lore. Oh yeah, the fights with the Koopalings also suck. These are on par with the Boom Boom fights in Mario 3 or the Bowser Jr. fights in New Super Mario Bros. You jump on them, they spin around for a bit, then you spawn camp them and get off a second hit immediately, and repeat the process. Every single fortress fight goes down that way. Yes, each Koopaling has something different to them. Lemmy has balls, Wendy-O has rings, Iggy's platforms move, Morton Jr. has these spike pillars, but a Rose by any other name would still be a pathetically easy boss fight. Not to mention, you fight each Koopaling twice. After trouncing them in their fortress, they retreat to their castle. The second encounter has Kamek wave their magic wand to change something or the other. Water floods the chamber, the Koopaling hides in pipes, the floor moves, big ball. It's such a minute change. Had the Koopaling's second encounter been the only one, and instead we fought Reznor or Boom Boom or just some other mini-boss in the fortress, that would have created more climatic castle fights. Why do the Koopalings even have magic wands? They had them in Mario 3 because they stole them from the rulers of each kingdom, and didn't have them in Mario World because there weren't any wands to steal. So why do they have them here? Because it was easier to give them all wands than it was to make every fight unique? Who knows? Bowser Jr. is fought in the Airship levels, which appear at the end of Worlds 4, 6, and 8. These fights are some of the most engaging and see you using propeller blocks to stop, bound cars to electrocute, and spiky bombs to explode Bowser Jr. In 8 Fortress, you fight Kamek, who uses their magic to change these moving blocks into various enemies. It's okay. The final battle is at least pretty neat. It starts off with a classic Bowser fight from Mario 1, where you need to get under him, or just fly over him, and press a convenient switch that destroys this bridge. Kamek then comes to make him super big, and you need to outrun him while his fireballs destroy walls and stuff. It's pretty nifty, and gave me so much trouble as a kid. After beating Bowser, Peach informs Mario that there's a secret 9th world that can now be explored. World 9 has 8 levels, which can only be played after collecting all the star coins in a given world. So to play 9-1, you need all the star coins in World 1, to play 9-2, you need all the star coins in World 2, etc. All the levels in World 9 are really good. Despite needing all the star coins of a world to play, the levels don't actually correspond to their world's theme. They do introduce interesting mechanics, like big-ass bullet bills, melting ice blocks with fireballs, and homing bullet bills. 9-4 is the notable stinker, but that's in part to both being an auto-scroller and having one of the hardest star coins in the game. You have to keep an ice flower throughout the entire level to freeze a piranha plant so you can enter this pipe. Really neat challenge made frustrating through auto-scrolling. Then 9-7 has the hardest star coin in the game, if you're in single player that is. You have to bait these fire bros to melt some ice blocks, then drop down, nab the star coin, and wall jump back up. Or, just use the propeller mushroom. Alright, you've collected all the star coins in the first 8 worlds, unlocked all the levels in World 9, and collected all the star coins in those levels. So what's your reward? No, seriously, what's your reward? You've beaten 78 levels, found 14 secret exits, and collected 234 star coins. What do you get for your trouble? A nifty palette swap? A swag message made out of coins? Infinite one-ups? A cool shirt and shades? Nope, you're just told you've done everything and that's it. Well, that's not fair. You get to watch all these hint movies at Peach's Castle and they all cost star coins. They'll show you where star coins and secret exits are, how to get a whole bunch of one-ups, and just other incredible displays. But that's all. You've totally conquered New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and the game waves it off with a simple text box. That sucks so much. After I finished New Super Mario Bros. Wii, I went on to play a ROM hack that had interested me for a few years. Newer Super Mario Bros. Wii. This game boasts 128 new levels, new enemies, new level themes, new bosses, and a new power-up. Okay, not new, but new to the game engine. The hammer suit from Mario 3. While not the subject of this video, I at least wanted to mention it because I think it's honestly better than the original New Super Mario Bros. Wii. The level design is more interesting, mechanics introduced in the base game are further explored, and the world is interconnected. Some stuff looks janky, sure, but for every bad rain overlay and strange Shy Guy walk cycle, you've got Koopas in coats because it's chilly out and they don't want to catch cold, Switch palaces, a story you spend star coins to purchase power-ups, and some pretty funky remixes to classic songs. Also, the new bosses kinda suck, but the bosses in the base game also kinda suck, so not much is different there. If you have a homebrewed Wii or understand how emulation works, I highly recommend checking this game out. It's got space levels, big old pumpkins, and even a level based around grave robbing. Like with my retrospection on Paper Mario, I had my girlfriend play New Super Mario Bros. Wii. She didn't like it. Not for any of the reasons I've listed, but because platformers just aren't her thing. We made it halfway through World 2 and then I didn't make her play it anymore. And I'll admit, me killing her a bunch probably didn't help her enjoy the game. As a child, I loved this game for 6 months. Then the next new Mario game came out and I moved on to that. But I never came back to New Super Mario Bros. Wii in the same way that I came back to the other games that I loved. This game is entirely forgettable. It was the 4th best-selling game on the Wii, and yet games like Wii Sports and Mario Kart Wii are talked about so much more. What does it say that seemingly the most memorable part of this game is that the Koopas dance when the music goes ba? The greatest failure of New Super Mario Bros. Wii is, ironically, the lack of anything new. Yes, there are 2 new power-ups and 4-player co-op, but at the end of the day, this is just a Mario game. You grab flagpoles and rescue Peach. There's no spin, no flair, no pizzazz, nothing groundbreaking about this entry. This is just New Super Mario Bros. On the Wii with co-op. The levels are uninspired, the world themes are as basic as possible, and the world maps aren't even visually interesting. It simply doesn't do anything new. The only redeeming part of this game is the co-op, which the game was oh so clearly built around from the ground up. That ends up making the single player experience feel empty and lonely. So why did I never come back to New Super Mario Bros. Wii? There wasn't anything worth returning to. Boring level designs and uninspired gameplay. There is an idea of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, some kind of abstraction, but there is no real game, only an entity, something illusory. And though it can hide its empty levels and you can play through it and maybe even sense that there's potential here, it simply is not there. This game has no soul, no beating heart through which its mechanics and levels were designed around. When the only inspiration you're working with is a new Mario game on the Wii, that's what you get, a new game. But a new game is only new until the next one comes out. Then it's no longer shiny and youthful and the cracks begin to appear. New Super Mario Bros. Wii was not future-proof. It was built to be played and forgotten. And that's exactly what happened. There's a reason any retrospective on this game, and the other New Super Mario Bros. Games for that matter, have the same conclusion. Despite being technically sound and playing nicely, it is a forgettable, blah game that doesn't innovate in one of the most innovative, genre-defining series in the medium's history. Take care.